Welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations, your authority in navigating the world of homeschooling diverse learners. Featuring Peggy Ployhar from SPED Homeschool, Annie Yorty from AnnieYorty.com, Leilani Melendez from Living with Eve, Stephanie Buckwalter from eLARP Learning, and Dawn Jackson from Dawn Jackson Educational Consulting and Tutoring. With over 75 years of combined homeschooling expertise, experiences, and perspectives, this group is eager to share their wealth of wisdom to empower your homeschooling journey. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and get ready for insightful discussions, valuable insights, and practical tips. Give your homeschool the power boost it needs to successfully educate the unique learners in your home.
Welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations. I'm your host, Peggy Ployhar, and this show is where we tackle real questions and challenges that homeschooling families face, bringing you expert advice, encouragement, and practical solutions to support your unique learner. Today, we're diving into a topic that every parent, especially homeschooling parents, need to be aware of: keeping kids safe in a digital world. With the internet playing a huge role in education, entertainment, and socialization, it's more important than ever for parents to understand how to protect their kids online. Joining me for this conversation is Jack Hughes, an 18-year-old online safety expert who has firsthand experience navigating the digital world as a homeschooler. Jack specializes in parental controls, especially on Apple devices, and knows all the tricks and loopholes kids use to bypass restrictions. He's on a mission to help parents safeguard their kids online by providing practical, straightforward advice through his podcast, The Parent Tech Support Show, his newsletter, and his recently published book, The Definitive Guide to Protecting Kids Online. In today's episode, we'll cover essential topics like how to block inappropriate content, set screen time limits, and stay ahead of the latest digital risks. Jack will also share some insights into how technology has shaped his generation and even some of the ways kids use tech to cheat in school. Jack, welcome to the show. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Thanks for having me on, Peggy.
Absolutely. This is a topic we need to talk about all the time because it's forever changing. And I think parents always seem at a loss. So my experience with this is I'm the oldest of 14 kids. So my parents had 4 and then adopted 10. And so by the time that my younger siblings came into the home, and they were very good at getting around stuff, my dad was so out of tech, and he was an engineer. I mean, he introduced me to an Apple computer. I learned programming when I was, in grade school, way before the time that anybody learned any of that. But he kind of got outsmarted because the tech kept increasing faster than he could keep up. And so having somebody like you to kind of walk us through all of that and keep up with these things that are constantly changing and how kids get around them is important for parents. So I'm so glad to have you here today.
Yeah, my story was maybe not identical, but very similar to you. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, or not the oldest of 6. I'm the second oldest of 6 siblings. And my dad was he was pretty tech savvy when I was young. He showed me how to write emails, showed me how to text message people. But when I got to like 13 or 14, I started passing him up. And then, it was easy. It was running circles around him at that point.
Right. Yeah. I think kids these days, like most parents will tell you, if you can't figure it out, just hand your tablet to, a 5-year-old. They'll figure out how to work it more so than you will. So you specialize in helping parents set up parental controls, especially on Apple devices. What are the first steps parents should take in, protecting their kids online?
Yeah, so I'd say locking down would be when you want to block harmful content would probably be one of the main priorities.
Right.
And so these are really broad brush strokes. So there's a lot of nuances between all of this, depending on the child's maturity level and whatnot, or their age. Right. But I'd say restricting the web browser is a big thing, whether that means blocking the web browser completely or heavily restricting it. Restricting certain apps. So restricting their ability to download social media like Instagram, or maybe that could be YouTube or YouTube Kids or something. That could be restricting certain games you don't want them to have. You don't want them to play. That could be, I don't know, like Call of Duty, or that could be Fortnite or something like that. And that also could be setting downtime limits, so that if let's say they go to, or they have school time from 8 till 5 p.m., 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., have the phone restricted during that, or have app limits so they can't spend 3 hours a day on a game or an app. So these are broad strokes, a lot of nuances between all of that.
Right, but it does, you're setting the boundaries basically as you're kind of figuring out how to control the content, but it's good to have those broad kind of parameters to start from, to just kind of say, well, these are our limits. And I know as a parent, we parented through that time period, about the age of your parents, because my kids are all adults now, and it was constantly changing, because all these new tech things that we never existed all of a sudden came into existence, and you're like, how do we deal with this one now? So yeah, it's always
always changing.
Yes. So what are the best ways to block inappropriate content, like on iPhones and other Apple devices? I know a lot of people, they gravitate to those Apple devices. I don't actually own one, but I'd love our viewers to know how to do that.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I mainly specialize in Apple phones is because I grew up on Apple devices, and I think the statistics are like 80% of kids use Apple devices. So that's one of the reasons why I focus on Apple devices. But the best way to block inappropriate content on, let's just focus on iPhones and the Apple devices. You probably want to start with the web browser. So Safari, which is built into Apple devices. You can do that. You can restrict that using screen time. So this is your basic web filter. So Apple has a built-in parental controls called screen time. You could go to settings, you scroll down to screen time, and then you have to, it's very confusing. Screen time works well, but it's very confusing. It's for Apple, which prides himself on a expert design company.
Being user-friendly, yes.
Yeah, it's not very user-friendly.
Got it.
You go to content and privacy restrictions, and you go to, I believe it says web content and something. You press that button, and it gives you 3 options. It gives you unrestricted access. So that's what by default everyone has, unrestricted access. And then it gives you limit adult content. And essentially it essentially allows all the websites except for the inappropriate websites that it knows of. So all the adult content that Apple knows of, it will restrict on the iPhone. But the problem with that is, that catches 99.99% of the adult websites. But there are something like
something new, right?
Yeah, hundreds of websites a day, and it can't catch them all. Or you could find pornography on websites that shouldn't have pornography on it, like a social media site like Twitter has a lot of porn on it, that kids will just use that, even with that filter turned on. So that filter is kind of, it's helpful if you don't want to see porn just for yourself, but it's not really helpful for completely blocking porn from a child's phone.
That's good. That's good for parents to know, because I think a lot of times parents will just go, well, that's a safeguard and we'll just turn that on and then we're good. But that's really important for them to know that, yes, that that is just like the first step maybe towards starting to block, but not the ultimate control. So
what you can do is that you can turn it on, limit adult websites, and that also prevents them from being able to delete their history. So if you want to put in extra work, you can do that and then look through their history and see if they are visiting any inappropriate sites or apps. But the safest option is just to press the button that says the third option, which is approved websites only. So it's going to block every website except for these approved websites that you specify. So that's what I recommend
Awesome.
for most
So
parents.
so there is that option as well. That's
Yeah.
neat. Okay. Well, what about screen time? I know that's a big concern for parents. And I know there's a lot of evidence out there now that screen time for kids is really harmful. So a lot of parents already know that they should be setting those. What are some practical ways for them to enforce them though?
Yeah. Um, there are a lot of parents or a lot of people kind of rule these out, but a lot of times the physical, like taking away of the phone at nighttime, or physically keeping them off their phone, especially at a
Mhm.
young age, is really helpful.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's also, you could set limits on their phone. Funny enough, you can set limits using the screen time feature, screen time for screen
Oh,
time. I find that funny. But
yeah.
Apple screen time system allows you to set app limits on certain apps or categories. So you go into screen time, and let's say you find the games category and you press the social media category, and you set a limit for, I don't know, an hour and a half for these categories. And then once your child or the teenager spends an hour and a half on, let's say, Minecraft, they spend an hour and a half on Minecraft, then it'll
Mhm.
automatically block Minecraft for that day. Or you can
Got it.
set downtime limits. So where it's like 10 p.m. at nighttime, the phone shuts off and you only have the essential functions of the phone, like messages or calls. And
Okay.
you can also use third-party services to do essentially the same things as screen time.
Oh, okay. So even if you don't have an Apple phone, there's other options
Yeah.
for like an Android of some
In,
sort.
in fact, actually, the parental controls on Android is a lot better on Apple.
Hmm.
Just because Apple is super focused on security and privacy, even though that might be kind of markety and they just want to have control of their phones and they say it's for security reasons. I'm a little
Right.
skeptical of that, but you can do a lot more on Android than you can on Apple. So actually, if you want to really lock down your child's phone, you want to get a Android phone. I know like the Bark phone or the Gap phone are really good options for that.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. So I know parents also worry about their kids bypassing these controls. What are some of the most common loopholes or workarounds that you've seen?
Yeah, so I was a expert on these loopholes. I loved them as a kid. Half
So
the
was
time
my
I didn't
middle
even
child.
um probably probably the most damaging loophole that I used all the time, and by far the most useful one, was something I call the Google sign in backdoor. And
Hmm.
what my parents would do, which majority of parents think, because Apple screen time is so confusing, it's such a mess. Um, they'll block Safari off my phone. They press a button that says block Safari, and so they think I no longer have a web browser on my phone. But the problem
Uh,
is they just blocked the app Safari. They didn't block
right.
the phone's ability to use the internet. The way you
Yes.
do that is to use those content filters I was explaining earlier.
Got it.
So what I would find was I would find an app that had a Google sign-in feature. Have you ever signed up for a service and the app offer the option to use Google to sign in?
Right.
Yeah. So what you're able to do with that is you're able to press that and it opens up a little window in the app and you're able to get on Google from that little window instead of going to Safari. And it's not just with the Google sign in, there's other ways you can do that too, but that's essentially I call it the Google sign in because it's the most common. But I used that a lot as a kid. My parents always
Hmm.
thought I didn't have Safari. I didn't have access to the web browser, but for years, I would just use that feature, or not that feature, that loophole.
Right.
And there's also stuff you can do with Siri. You can use Siri to search up websites sometimes. There's also the unlimited screen time and messages loophole that I would use
Hmm.
occasionally. So my parents would set a limit for, like, let's say it was an hour limit on messages, so I couldn't talk to my friends. So what I would do instead is I would wait for a notification to come in. Then what you would be able to do is you'd be able to swipe down that notification and just respond to them on that notification. So screen time
Oh, so you
wasn't
didn't go
tracking
into that. Yeah.
time on messages. I was just on the notification. So I essentially got unlimited screen time on messages. Um, some kids will will download a third-party browser like Google Chrome or Google on their phone. And the problem with a third-party web browser is Apple Screen Time doesn't really have a lot of control over that. So they're able to get past
all the
some of the
this
restrictions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make sure no one has any third-party browsers on their phone, or your child has no third-party browsers on their phone.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot, and they can get in some big trouble just through those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good for them to know. So many parents worry about their kids being exposed to harmful content on social media. What are your top recommendations for keeping kids safe on platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok? I mean, they're all out there, and we all know that people share what they share, and
Yeah.
how do you control that?
I'd say there's really no good reason for someone under 16 to have Snapchat or TikTok or Instagram. It's just the cons outweigh the benefits when it comes to especially Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok. Like those are the three baddies when it comes to digital safety. Now, if your child is 16 or if they are mature enough, you can all these services offer their own built-in parental controls and monitoring stuff. But
Okay.
so you could sort
But
of see a
still.
little bit what they're doing. It depends on the thing. So I could think on Snapchat and Instagram, you can see who they're following and who they're texting or who they're messaging. And you could sort of set up content restrictions, but it's not that good.
Hmm.
I'm very skeptical of that sort of stuff. I think it's just Instagram and Snapchat putting these things on to get the heat off their back, because there was a lot of cases that was brought to them. But you can use those parental controls. You can monitor what your child is doing on these services, but I'd say just keep it away from them till they're at least 16, and then employ those built-in controls.
Right. Yeah. There's just so much, and so much that they don't need to be exposed to that
Yeah.
that is going on those sites. And so I completely agree.
Yeah, and
What are
I
some
get kids
go on.
on TikTok and Snapchat all yelling at me for recommending these 16s because they all call me snitch or like shut up. It's funny.
Someday they'll appreciate you. It might not be for a while, but yes. So what are some red flags for parents that they should watch for that might indicate that their child's, accessing unsafe or inappropriate online content?
Yeah, so if your child is spending a suspicious amount of time in the room, if you walk into the room and they hide their phone all of a sudden, I know sort of developed that. It was like a subconscious thing. I didn't realize what I was doing. My dad would walk in the room, I would quick hide my phone underneath the covers, or they're never like on their phone when you're around, but they're always on their phone when you're not around. A good
Right.
indicator. Or let's say you look at their screen time report. So Apple will tell you what they're doing on their phone. If they're spending like 5 hours a day on a workout tracking app, that was the app I would use to get on the web browser or online. And so if they're spending like 5 hours a day on really weird apps, that's a good
Uh,
indicator that they're using that app to get on the internet. Now, if you set it up correctly, you wouldn't have to worry about them getting on the internet on those apps if you use that filter. But like
right.
fishy stuff like that, you want to be suspicious about. And if like their personality changes, now that of course depends on the kid. If they just
Hmm.
exhibit negative personality traits. I remember I had a friend, like a year ago. I didn't like him because he was kind of a jerk. He was always really rude, and he was kind of shy, not shy, but closed off. And it came out like a few months later that he was really struggling with porn at that time, and he wouldn't tell anyone, and he was hiding it. And now since he's told everyone, he's gotten a lot better at that. I'm now like best friends with him. It's great to have a friend like that. But if their personality is changing, that's also another
Right.
good indicator.
Yeah, that's good to point out, and it's sometimes hard to tell because teenagers change so much anyways, but
Yeah.
always good to think, well, this might be what's leading to that too. And Yeah, I own my own physical in-person business too, and a lot of times kids will ask me for my internet access, and I say no. If your kids don't or your parents don't give you internet on your phone, you're not getting it through me. And so I only give out my website guest credentials to parents. And I'm like, if you want to give them to your kids, that's completely fine. But I think that's just a good safeguard out in public too, because I don't want to be liable for kids finding things
Yeah.
when they're getting internet through me. So
This one time every time we'd go to hotels and they had the little computers, I would use not like not like to search up porn or anything like that, just to watch. I was a really little kid. I couldn't watch YouTube or anything, so I would just use those computers. I would always get up really early to watch Minecraft videos on those computers. It was just a funny little story.
yeah, exactly. There's always something that can cause an addiction, and it doesn't have to be bad, but it takes our time away from what we should be doing.
Hmm.
So with a lot of homeschooling kids, they often use the internet for education, and it's becoming more and more of a standard especially since COVID, with all these new online educational tools. How can parents balance giving kids access to learning resources while still keeping them safe?
Yeah, so that's a great question. If like your child is like 12 and they need to research for a paper or something like that,
Yeah,
a great idea would be to have a family computer that's out in the open
right.
and maybe have basic content restrictions on that computer so they can't just stumble upon inappropriate content, but have like a family computer that's out in the open where they can't go take it and hide it or something like that. That's a great option for if they're really young, or maybe you let them use your own computer with your own password that they don't know of and that you're always around them. It's also a great method to stop them from cheating, like I used to always do. Or if they get older, like let's say that's 14 or so, there's a lot of good monitoring software on for computers. You can do a lot more with
Okay.
computers than you can with phones. Um, and you can set it up to where it takes screenshots like every 10 seconds or every 5 seconds on the computer
Oh,
and
wow.
compiles all the screenshots, which is really useful.
Mhm.
The ones that I would always use is Covenant Eyes or a content barrier or something like that. There's a lot of good tools
Okay.
out there that can also help with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had one, we like turned our whole dining room into like a library space, and that's where the family computer was, and it was like right next to the kitchen where I usually was. So, everybody was walking in and out and around it, and
Yeah,
so
great place.
that became the space for having it. Yeah, it's better kind of in those multi-purpose rooms. Who needs a dining room these days anyways?
Yeah,
So
our classrooms in our dining room too.
yeah, yep. So you grew up with technology and have firsthand experience with how it impacts your generation. In what ways do you think technology has influenced kids today?
Yeah. Honestly, it's made kids a lot more lame, essentially. I remember growing up as a kid, I'd want to go play outside with my friends and shoot each other with BB guns
Oh yeah,
or light fireworks off or just have fun in the woods, like
right.
normal, awesome boy stuff. But they were all stuck at home playing their little video games. And it's just like the memories I would have, outside.
Yeah,
It's great for kids to be outside, great for kids to have an adventure. And so that's a big problem that technology has done with the kids. It stopped boys from being boys and girls from being girls. Um,
hmm
Keep your child off their phone, keep them off their game station. Now, of course, in moderation, all these things can be good, but it's also great to have your child outside in the woods or riding bicycles. I remember one summer, I was like 15 at this time, so I couldn't have a driver's license, and I couldn't go on my computer all the time like I used to be able to and watch YouTube. So what I did to pass the time is I found a bike on Craigslist for like $40, and I ordered an engine off Amazon, and I built my own
Huh.
DUI motorcycle for
Oh,
the summer.
cool.
That's Had a whole blast for the summer. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's a kind of a shame how technology has degraded childhood. I believe.
Right. And that
I remember,
inventive spirit, especially, that
yeah,
spirit of discovery. It's like, oh, yeah, I can Google anything. And
Yeah.
that takes that away, then you trying to discover it yourself. And those are the things that are building blocks for what you do with the rest of your life. We don't remember what we searched on Google. We remember what we created, what we invented.
Yeah. Another big
So it's
problem
very
with that
powerful.
too, when you're just stuck at home playing games, you're not developing your relations with your friends. You're not learning how to interact with people. You're not
Right.
working on how to overcome problems with friends and whatnot, fights or anything. All of this is super important.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. It's good points. So, what are some of the biggest mistakes parents make when it comes to managing their child's technology use?
Yeah, I'd say there are two extremes. Number one is they don't really know anything to do with technology, and they don't put an ounce of effort
Right.
into it. And their child runs circles, and they don't even know what their child's doing on their phone, and
Yeah.
it gets spirals way out of control. It's a mess. And then the other
Yep.
side, per usual, the other side of the road, their parents are like, nothing till they're 18. Everything is locked down. um, and so the child is super isolated. They don't really have a good sense of the world, anything like that. And you kind of need some of these skills. You need to know how to
Yeah.
type on a computer in order to function in society today. You
Right.
need to know how to use Google. Um, and so it's having really sheltered people or really, I want to say broken people. So
Mm.
if you want to be in the middle, you want to know technology, you want to know how to protect your child, you know how to set up parental controls, but still, um, I don't want to say immerse your child in the culture, but the child still needs to learn how to use these tools in a safe manner, in a
Right.
controlled, healthy manner. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. You, it's better that they make a few bumbles inside your home and you can have
Yeah,
those healthy discussions, um, than to have them completely restricted and then go out and everything's open to them and then make really major decisions, bad choices, and the repercussions can be life changing for your
yeah.
child. So
I knew someone
yeah.
like that who just went out to college, and she went from 15 minutes a day on her really heavily restricted phone to now 5 or 6 hours a day. And so she didn't build up any of the mental um, habits or discipline.
Right. Yeah. And it has to be an internal discipline that you do develop. But I know a lot of parents, they really struggle with setting digital boundaries because they feel like, oh, I'm just going to be over restrictive or else I'm going to be not restricted enough. How do they strike that healthy balance in between?
A great way to sort of figure out what that healthy balance is to have good communication with your child. If your child,
Agreed.
um, yeah, it's great to have, if you want to protect them from pornography, make sure that you know why exactly you're doing this. If you want to restrict their games, have a good conversation with them. Now you're ultimately the parent, and you should draw the final line,
Right.
but you should hear out the child and sort of hear what other parents are saying, hear what other sources are saying, and kind of take these and discuss it with your child or your
Right.
spouse.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it has to come from the top down. I mean, kids will respect what you have, especially if you share with them your heart for them. They may not agree with it, but they will come to respect it over time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So, what about gaming platforms and online interaction in games? Because, kids can have discussions with other kids and like Minecraft and Roblox and Fortnite, and there's a lot of them. My kids are on Discord. They're all over the place. They're adults now, though, but they're always making friends. And so,
Hmm.
what do you do as a parent to kind of make sure that those are safe?
Yeah, that gets a really yeah, it gets a little dark and murky when you talk about those games. A lot of like the articles written about, especially about Roblox and Minecraft, I feel like a lot of that is a little bit overdone,
Hmm.
especially about the predators on Roblox. But again, there still are predators in Roblox. I'm sure some of these cases are true. So it is important to be aware of that, especially Minecraft. Minecraft is, I guess, a lot of what this comes from are kids on these apps who, on certain chats, will start talking to older people and whatnot. But at that point, I feel like it's less to do with the platform itself. Like Minecraft and
Right.
Roblox are designed for kids, and they have a lot of kids games, and they're really fun for kids, and they're good for kids. As far as games go, just like you would educate your child not to get in a car with a random stranger or not to send their information with a random stranger.
Right.
Same thing
Yes.
with these
Because
games
the
and these.
discussions aren't necessarily like required
Yeah,
for the
no,
games.
they're not. They're not
Yeah.
at all.
Okay.
Yeah, especially like Fortnite, maybe a little bit because they have voice calls, but a child really shouldn't be playing Fortnite. It's more of a teenager, I'd say 14 till 16 age game. But Roblox and Minecraft, I'm not sure about Minecraft, but I know especially in Roblox, you can restrict the chat so they can't talk to people.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Minecraft, there's not a lot of chat stuff on Minecraft either. So
Okay. Yeah, because I know a lot of parents use Minecraft as part of their homeschooling. So that would kind of destroy a bit some of our families that are like, yeah, that's the
Minecraft
only time way I get my child to do school.
Minecraft is mostly a single player game,
Okay.
or just with 2 or 3 people on the game. The only times you'd be talking to people around the world are on servers, and not a lot of people play these servers. So Minecraft, I think a lot of the bad publicity in Minecraft is overdone just because it's so rare you'd actually be talking with a person around the world.
Right. And I think there's some homeschool specific servers as well that
Yeah.
are for that game as well. I remember my kids talking about that. They were kind of on the forefront of all of that when it was coming out. So I think it's really good, important to address too, this mental health aspect of just overuse of technology, social media. I know a lot of new reports have been coming out, and just how to navigate parent, safety for kids as a parent. What advice do you have for parents in that area?
In terms of managing your child's mental health when it comes to
Well, yeah,
technology.
just mental health in general, and what I mean, maybe even just as far as here's some concerns that
Yeah.
if you don't put those restrictions in place, if you don't take this as a kind of a red flag subject, then here's what is more than likely
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally see what you're saying there. Just recently, I'd say about a month and a half, maybe not a month and a half ago, but I interviewed a mom whose name is Tammy and whose daughter died, I believe, at age 12 of suicide
Oh, wow.
because of social media and because of she developed a social media addiction, and then she got cyberbullied and then tricked into sending photos and then just brutally harassed online. It's just like this
Wow.
the slow fade from here
Right.
down to here. And at first the mom didn't really know what she's doing, but towards the end she knew something was wrong. But you can't really blame her. She's a
Right.
mom who
Yeah.
had no idea. It was a really tragic story, and it brought tears to my eyes hearing that. So that there's a lot of risks like that. Now, of course, not everything is going to be that tragic and that drastic,
Right.
but there's a book out called The Anxious Generation. It sheds a lot of light on this. As soon as smartphones were adopted, there goes a sharp spike in anxiety and depression in teenagers, and a sharp spike in suicide with kids. So a lot of times kids will see stuff on Instagram or other social medias, and they'll compare themselves to those people on Instagram.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah. So
all the unhealthy, we don't, it doesn't even have, it's just subliminal. It's not even like, it doesn't have to be straight out forward people attacking you. This can just be, I can't even imagine growing up in this day and age, just
Yeah.
without technology when we didn't even have computers when I was that age. So,
Yeah, nowadays I'll never be good enough because I'm comparing myself with the person who's the top, 0.1% in any given hobby. Like if I like
right.
skiing, I'm comparing myself with like the world class skier. And so
Instead of
you'll never
like
be good enough.
the local person who is the expert.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's so
And then
true.
there's
And
the whole bullying and sextortion stuff that's coming out now where
mm,
like a school tricks someone to send nudes and then they'll go around the whole school or something. That's just like a small case. There's lots of stuff
wow.
like that. And then now you have these new AI stuff. There's stories of kids being driven to suicide because of these AI chatbots, AI girlfriends or whatever they are, who are like tricking kids or telling kids to kill their parents. It's just like a lot of messed up stuff.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
it's stuff you want to be
there's
worried
a lot
about.
of darkness out in our world, and unfortunately, that we're just bringing it into our homes
Yeah.
by not filtering and not being proactive to come against it. So,
Yeah.
lots of good things and reminders, definitely. So, as a homeschooler, you had a lot of flexibility with technology. How did that shape your education and your learning experience? It's interesting to find out because you were schooled in that age where everything was changing
Hmm.
from very much homeschool from the books. I remember when I went to my first homeschool conference, it was all like, there was maybe 2 or 3 major curriculum companies, and then, everything else was mom and pop type of things and now there's so much online. You can take classes from people across the world and all of that. So how did as a being homeschooled yourself, what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I sort of got I got two sides of the story. Like when I first got into school, I everything through classical conversations,
Okay. Yeah.
all the way up till Challenge B, I think. So I got a lot of the, you know, learned how to read books, like physical books, not learn how to read physical.
Right.
I read physical books. I did all that sort of stuff. But towards the end of my high school or during high school, we switched to a lot of online stuff. So I had a lot
Okay.
of online chemistry, online math. In fact, all my math was online, which I used to cheat pretty bad. Um, now that I'm 18 and graduated, I can say that. Um, but online was interesting. I probably would say the in-person stuff would have been is better because it's more real and you can't cheat as easily with the physical stuff as you can on like a computer.
Right.
And I feel like it's just easier to learn. It's hard to learn on a computer because you're one click away from watching, I don't know, YouTube, or it's just very distracting. You're on like the most
Right.
distracting device ever and you're trying to learn and you're trying to study for a test. Um, and it's a lot harder on a computer, but it is a lot more practical, a lot
Right.
easier and cheaper on a computer.
Yeah, I found my kids going back and forth with that too because they were the same age as you. Actually, my youngest is older than you, but um, we went a lot back and forth, and sometimes they would come back to me because they had grown up so much on the books, and they're like, "Can you just teach this?" Because they were
I
so
know.
frustrated with. I mean, and that was kind of the beginning age of people creating online curriculum, so it was kind of a mess. They didn't write their tests quite well, and so sometimes their
Yeah.
tests weren't even lined up with the curriculum that they had learned. It was maybe the next week's, and they're like, "Oh, we got the answers now." So so yeah, they just are like, "Can you just teach it to us?" But sometimes we would get like CDs, which was so nice because then it was an isolated thing. They didn't have to be on the internet, and
Yeah,
we could
I remember
do that
CD-ROMs.
too. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the day. Yes. When you could actually really filter content. Uh, well, you mentioned that kids can use technology to cheat in subjects like math. Can you share some examples of how this happens and how parents can maybe be aware of what they can do about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, especially in math, it's pretty bad. I feel bad talking about this now, but I was a big
But
cheater
your
in
wisdom
school.
is educating a lot of people. So just look
Yeah.
at it from that perspective. God uses
Yeah.
everything. It comes around.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, even in like grade 7 math, right, which is just like multiplication in basic algebra, it was so easy just to use a calculator the whole time during tests and during math because I was alone and I was just on my computer and I got my work
Right.
done for the day, la di da. Or then, I mean, all till pre-algebra, I was able to cheat in math and just use calculators. You could use this app called Photomath, and you could scan a problem on the computer screen, and it takes 1 second and it gives you an answer. So if it's like a calculus problem, you can scan it and then you can ask for the derivative or to solve the x. You can do everything with math with just photo math,
Wow.
and
So
it's
now for
incredibly cheap.
parents, that would be a great tool, though.
Yeah, if you need
Does
check
it
of
give
work,
them
you can
step
use
by
that.
step? Does it give them step by step instructions on how the solution it comes about, or just the solution?
Yeah, free version, it does not give you step by step. If you pay, I don't know,
Okay.
like $3 a month, it will.
Oh,
Um,
so that's a great piece of tech for parents who struggle in math, I think.
yeah, it's
So
really
yeah,
nice. Yeah,
awesome.
in fact, I use it occasionally just on my own if I ever do need to do math, which is probably goes to show that you probably didn't need to learn calculus in the
Do
first
that
place.
basic foundation. Yeah. It
Um,
comes back. Yeah.
yeah, or it's chemistry or other classes. So like really any class I had to do on my own and there was no oversight. It's just super easy to cheat and look up. So like for like a chemistry class, all the answers are on Quizlet, which is a pretty popular platform for that sort of stuff. Or
Yes.
like
Yep.
a chemistry class, all the answers are on Quizlet, or like a literature class. So if your child is doing a test or has tests due, make sure they do it in front of you and to proctor them, just like you would in any normal classroom. You need
Right.
to be around when your child's doing the test. I mean, if my mom did that, I would have known so much more about chemistry and hydrogen and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Very good point. So, what are some of the best tech tools or apps that homeschool families can use then in a positive way to enhance learning? It's-
Yeah, I mean that photomath app would probably be one of my top recommendations. Um, hmm. I you can use funny enough, you can use ChatGPT a lot. That could be really useful for learning. I use ChatGPT myself, or not just ChatGPT, other AI
Other, yeah,
products.
AI.
Um,
Absolutely.
those things
And
are
I think it's
great at
really good
estimating.
for kids. We had a whole two-part series on AI a while ago, and to not be afraid of it because it is being used so much now. If kids know
Yeah,
how to make it work for them instead, not do the work for them, but
yeah.
how to use it to enhance what they want to do, it can really be helpful,
I mean,
especially for our
if we
audience,
want
which
to
has a lot of
succeed
struggling learners.
in this world, you kind of have to use AI now because you're competing with people who are using AI. And
Exactly.
so,
Yeah.
I mean, AI is just great for explaining like your child is stuck on a problem. AI can explain it all. I mean, AI can probably work better than photomath if you know how to use AI. And it's just a great way for explaining things, or if like your child is stuck on a problem, ask ChatGPT or ask an AI, maybe that's Claude or something. But
Right.
yeah, great tool for that. Now, of course, they can just take ChatGPT and have it write them a paper. So you want to be careful on that sort of stuff as well.
Right. Yes, and I think we have to try to be as discerning as we can about those things.
Yeah.
You get those AI calls now, and I answered the phone, and I'm like, "You are a computer," and it goes, "Oh, you caught me," and
Oh
I had to
my.
laugh because I was like, "Yes, I do know the inflections just weren't quite right," and so, but it
In
was
a year or
crazy.
two, though, that you won't be able to
I
catch it.
know. Yes. Yeah. It'll change. So you offer Zoom-based services to help parents set up parental controls. Can you tell us more about how that works?
Yeah. So I have a service that's that I walk parents through how to set up parental controls on iPhones and Macs and Apple devices, especially for right now as I get started. And they can sign up for that on my website at parenttech.support, and it's $47 per device. And so I get on a Zoom call
That's
with him.
awesome.
I take my phone out and I plug into my computer and I kind of walk them through step by step on how to set up screen time to protect the child. And I explain, the common workarounds and how to prevent those and answer any questions they might have. And then once after that call, they're opted into my $9 a month anytime tech support, so ongoing tech support,
Oh, that's awesome.
where if you have a problem come up, if they have a question, they just text me or they email me or call me if I can pick up during that time. And then I will respond to them within 24 hours or something like that. Or if I need to get on another call with them, I can also do that as well. So
That's awesome. Yeah. And your website is parenttech.support. And I have that in the show notes. So if you don't want to figure out how that is all put together, a lower caps, or cabs, whatever, that's the link is right there. So don't worry about it. Just click on that. And we'll make sure that you get connected. So you just published a book called The Definitive Guide to Protecting Kids Online. What are some of the key takeaways from your book?
funny enough, the book just went live like an hour before the show started, and I haven't even posted that on my socials yet. So your audience is the first people to hear about it. It's a quick little book I typed up. Sort of, it's less to do with a step-by-step guide on how to set up controls. It kind of gives you an introduction on the digital world and sort of my expertise and a little bit of what I know. So it does cover how to set up effective parental controls, but also explains how predators will target kids, or it explains why screen time limits matter, or open communication, how all that's important. The hidden risks of online gaming and social media platforms, all that sort of stuff that book covers. So right now it's $8.99 on Amazon. It's called the Definite Guide to Protecting Kids Online, and it's only going to be $8.99 for a little bit. And the Kindle version is also 99 cents right now. So
awesome.
Pick it up while you can.
Yeah, definitely. So that's exciting that just came out. Congratulations! It's quite an accomplishment to produce a book. I know I have one, and oh my goodness, I keep thinking I need to revise that thing, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to touch it.
Yeah,
but yes,
I did not expect publishing it would be that like confusing and intensive. Even though I just use Amazon.
It is absolutely confusing for sure. So you also run the Parent Tech Support Show podcast, and you have a newsletter that I saw that you can subscribe to from your website. What kind of content do you share? And
So my Parent Tech Support Show, I want to get into more interviews, hopefully in the future when I get more credibility. But as for now, I cover certain topics like this week, tomorrow, I have a episode releasing on how to block YouTube off your child's phone. I also have another episode on how to block porn just last week. So I cover certain topics, or like what are the top 12 Gen Z terms today. And the newsletter is also very similar to that. Newsletters like it'll give you a short, 1,000-word guide on like the top slang words that kids use, or it could be the newfound dangers of iOS 18. So it's hard to all like, or one covers how to set up parental controls on Snapchat. And once you sign up for the Parent Tech newsletter, you'll receive my free guide on the essentials of screen time. And that's like my little cheat sheet that I recommend for a lot of parents. And they'll kind of give you a quick explanation of how to use screen time. That's one of my prized like one of my favorite things I like recommended to people because it's super simple and it's super easy to follow. And when you sign up for the newsletter, you'll receive that as well, that little free download.
Yeah. And they can find that on your website at parenttech.support. So,
yep.
So if you are wondering about that or just caught us in the conversation and going, what are you talking about? Where can I find that? So if you could give parents just one piece of advice on when it comes to protecting their kids online, as we wrap up, what would that be?
Okay. It's hard to distill.
I know.
Make sure you know what you're doing when setting up parental controls, and monitor what your child is doing. So a lot of times parents will set up parental controls and they won't, that'll be it. They'll set them up and then they'll think their child is 100% safe, but they don't monitor. Is an active thing. I recommend doing quarterly checks on their screen time or on their search history, kind of glancing through their phone. Now, maybe don't go looking through all their texts with their friends because that might be invasion of privacy, depending on their maturity level and all that sort of stuff. But a general check through is a great idea. A quarterly change of the screen time password, so they can't just change it. I know when I was growing up, I would always figure out the screen time password, whether that was guessing it or that was setting up a camera and having it record as my mom typed in the password. I was a little espionage.
Well, it all prepared you for what you're doing now. And I think a lot of parents are appreciative of your willingness to share and to help their kids be safe. So I just thank you for this interview and all the great content that you shared with us. It's been very insightful for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. It's been nice having you on the show. And I hope a lot of parents will reach out to you. And so make sure that you check out Jack's website, parenttech.support, and all the resources that he has. And again, all that information is in the show notes for you. So, well, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Definitely got a work ahead of you. Yes. So, yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I know a lot of parents will walk away from this episode feeling a lot more confident and equipped to protect their kids online. And I just want to thank you for that firsthand and practical knowledge that you shared, not just like book knowledge for sure. And for those of you that are listening, if you'd like to learn more from Jack, make sure you do check out his podcast, The Parent Tech Support Show, sign up for his newsletter, and grab a copy of his new book, The Definitive Guide to Protecting Kids Online. And if you need hands-on help setting up parental controls, don't forget that Jack offers those personal Zoom sessions to guide you through the process. We'll include links to all those things in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. And always, everyone, thank you for tuning into Empowering Homeschool Conversations. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and leave a review and share it with other homeschooling parents that could benefit from this information. Plus, if you're looking for more resources, support, encouragement on your homeschooling journey, be sure to visit Homeschool Heroes powered by Sped Homeschool. We offer free downloads there, a supportive community for parents, homeschool-friendly providers, expert consultants that are ready to help you teach your child with confidence. Join us at spedhomeschool.com and develop your homeschooling superpowers with our resources, articles, and supportive community. Until next time, keep homeschooling boldly and with confidence, and we'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody.
This has been Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by Sped Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com.